Okay, lesson 45. This is an important lesson. We're going to be talking about passive voice. So I said way back in, oh my gosh, lesson 1 and then I think lesson 3 and then some of the other lessons I've been talking about all along active voice. So finally we're going to get to passive voice. So I said that passive voice is like 5% of the sentences, maybe less. So that's why we're learning it now, because we've learned the things that are of greater use first. So when I'm going to talk about passive voice, I may not be 100% grammatically correct. So when I refer to passive voice, I'm talking about that it's difficult to identify the subject, or the subject is not identified, or the subject receives the action of the verb. So there are two kinds of passive voice in Spanish. Okay, so the first is with the copulative plus the participle. So we have, for example, this is the subject, and this is the verb, and then this is the agent, and so the agent is doing the action of the verb. So we looked at this when we did the lesson on reflexive pronouns. So the passive voice is an arrow that goes backwards. The action of the sentence goes towards the subject. Now, with the Spanish, this type of construction is actually extremely rare. What's preferred is the second type of passive voice, which is using the pronoun say and putting the verb into the third person singular. Okay, so we have, for example, this doesn't really have a concrete subject. It could be anyone, and it could be no one. It could be everyone. So this is actually preferred in Spanish. Now, the second kind is most common in Spanish, but it doesn't exist in English. So this is important. You cannot use option number 2 in English. There is no way to do that. Only the first kind exists in English. Okay, so let's look at some examples in different tenses. So we've got different verb tenses here, and what I'm asking you to do on the line is to identify the verb tense. Hopefully you'll be able to, at this point, pretty much be able to translate in your mind. Great. Sentence number 1. The machinery is made in the USA. The machinery is made in the USA. Okay, so what verb tense is that? I'm going to let you figure that out. Number 2. Your brother was invited to the picnic. Your brother was invited to the picnic. Okay, number 3. The devil will be defeated on the final day. The devil will be defeated on the final day. That should read on. I'm going to change it right now. The devil will be defeated on the final day. All right. 4. $40 million have been invested in highways. $40 million have been invested in highways. Actually, this is an incountable concept. So I'm sorry, not incountable. It's considered a singular noun because we're talking about the bulk of the money, the group of money, not the individual dollars. So $40 million has been invested in highways. Yeah, that's correct. $40 million has been invested in highways. All right, number 5. $20,000 had been wasted on graft. $20,000 had been wasted on graft. And then number 6, time is being spent in preparing future professionals. Time is being spent in preparing future professionals. Okay, well, I think you should be able to translate these by yourself, and hopefully you'll be able to figure out the verb tense. If you got any questions, post them in the comments on this video, and hopefully I'll be getting back to you in a prompt fashion. In the case for the multiple passive voice uses in Spanish, English has variations, though most of them are not true sentences. So, for example, we would put a sign in a car that says for sale, or in front of a house. Okay, and so this sentence would be translated no dumping, no dumping. So we use the gerund, so that would be like no botar. Yeah. All right, and so then again, this is another sign. It would be posted, or an ad in a newspaper. So we would do it this way: needed to the colon. This is called a colon. The 2 dots, right? It's colon. Needed secretary. Okay, and so then with this one, wanted 2 dots. I'm sorry, colon the criminal. Okay, I don't know why it says el criminal. So, all right, the criminal. All right, number 11. So here we go. So here you have your passive voice, right? And so lo and behold, this is how English is going to do it with the copulative plus the participle. So 3 references are required. Very good. Very good. All right, since Spanish utilizes the passive voice, a curiosity is developed with certain expressions that shifts responsibility off of the person. In English, we use the active voice, which assumes full responsibility. So this was really funny for me when I was learning Spanish. I would hear people say "se me olvidó," and I would analyze this grammatically and say, "Whoa, that doesn't sound like I forgot it." In English, you're going to say "I forgot it," so I did it. But with this one, it sounds like it was forgotten by me, which it sounds like that I'm not to blame. So I don't know what you think about that, especially with this one, number 13. I remember that my fellow college student in Mexico, when we were studying Spanish at the La Universidad de Guadalajara in 1988, that's when I was there, he had in the other room the 1-year-old kid, and so he's playing with the 1-year-old kid from our host family, and the kid fell down. Actually, he dropped the kid. But when he went out, the kid was crying, you know, hit his head on the ground. So he went outside and he said, "Oh, se me cayó." Or no, se cayó. And so he didn't take it. He didn't accept any of the blame at all. He should have said, "Man, I dropped him. I'm so sorry, but I dropped it." Okay? So this assumes full responsibility. It seems to me that in Spanish, you're kind of saying, "Oh, it's not really my fault." Okay, and then again, you know, the thing got lost all by itself. Well, in English, you're going to have to say, "I lost it." So these constructions, the se me, and then the third person's singular past tense or present tense or whatever, you cannot use them. They do not exist in English. You're going to have to say, "I forgot it." You're going to have to say an active voice sentence and assume full responsibility. Well, regardless of whether you agree with me that it seems to me that Spanish doesn't assume responsibility with these sentences, regardless whether you agree with me or not on that, that's kind of like a cultural take that I have. I may be wrong. But in English, these are the only options you have for these translations. So you're going to have to use the active voice sentence in English. All right, very good. And in the English translations, the emphasis is on the individual's responsibility. When you use a construction like this, you will have to use the active voice and accept full responsibility. All right, vocabulary 45, 23 words and phrases total to date, 797. Active, active, although, and the word though is the same. So it's not a synonym, it's a contract form. Okay? All right, great. Assume, assume, assumed, assumed, certain, certain, defeat, defeat, defeated, defeated, develop, develop, developed, developed, and dump, dump, dumped, dumped, exist, exist, existed, final, final, graft, graft, highway, highway. By the way, graft is also inherte when in agriculture, when you inhertar something to a plant, and that's the idea of graft. You know, somebody who's living off of another. Okay, highway, invest, invested, invite, invited, machinery, machinery, million, million, multiple, multiple, passive, passive. Okay, very important word. Since, since, shift, shift, shifted. Okay, spend, spend, and so then we've seen this before. We add ed to a d and it gets changed to t. Spent, spent, because it's not a vowel change. Thousand, 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 voice, voice, waste, waste, wasted. All right, very good. So let's look at this. So these are the abbreviations, and these are, I think, pretty much the complete list. So we have highway, and here's the abbreviation, and then we have freeway. So a highway and a freeway are basically the same thing. In Los Angeles, they developed the freeway because it was free, because on the East Coast you had to pay toll roads. That's not on here, but you had to pay an amount of money. Street, and then the abbreviations right there. Avenue, and then the abbreviation road, and the abbreviation boulevard, boulevard, and then way does not have an abbreviation because it's so short. So, congratulations, that's lesson 45. We'll see you in lesson 46.